So, talk to me about Derby. Talk to me about Derby.
It's always been about the music.
I'm mad about music.
So vibrant and, full of life.
It's a city that's meant to be a town.
Derby is fantastic, a new emerging thriving music scene.
Looking at Derby and its music culture through the years and how the passion is still alive today in an exhibition on Sadlergate. Dancing Through Time is a dedicated heritage project celebrating and archiving the history of clubs, venues and music scenes in the city of Derby. There is art and creativity all the way from the 70s in here. The 70s and 80s were transformative decades for the UK music scene, and Derby was no exception to keeping in line. Whilst the city may have not been widely known for producing major chart-topping acts, as cities like Manchester or London, it nevertheless had a vibrant and evolving scene that reflected the trends of the time, such as the rise of glam rock, punk, new wave, and post-punk. The mid to late 70s brought the punk rock revolution, influenced by bands like the Sex Pistols, The Clash, and The Damned, who were all no stranger to Derby as they played at the venue of the time, the King's Hall, on their tours. Punk gave a rise to DIY ethos and a rejection of the commercialism that had previously defined pop music. Derby's youth scene responded with its own local punk bands and venues. During the 70s and 80s, Derby had several key venues that were essential to the live music scene, where both local and touring acts performed regularly. Many of these venues played a key role in the rise of punk rock and other emerging genres. The King's Hall, as previously mentioned, was a historic and iconic venue that played a significant role in the city's cultural music scene. The venue hosted a number of prominent acts, including music performances by popular artists and bands, like David Bowie and the Rolling Stones in 1973, The Jam and the Sex Pistols in 1977, but unfortunately had to close its doors in 2007 due to financial strain. The Assembly Rooms opened in 1977. The Assembly Rooms became one of Derby's central venues for live music in the late 70s and 80s. It hosted larger touring acts and was also used for local bands to perform in front of bigger crowds. The Assembly Rooms unfortunately closed its doors in 2015 due to a fire and has been in the works since. The Hairy Dog. Though it's more prominent in the modern music scene, the Hairy Dog has a long-standing presence as a live venue in Derby. It has roots that trace back to the 70s and 80s, serving as a key venue for punk and alternative acts during the years. The Victoria Inn, another important live music venue in Derby that gained traction in the 80s. It became known for hosting punk and rock acts, and it continues to be a venue that supports alternative music and local artists. As a working-class city, Derby's youth embraced punk as a form of self-expression and resistance against a society they felt they had little to offer them. Punk's anti-authorisation message resonated with young people in Derby, as it did with many industrial cities across the UK. Punk was a form of rebellion against the status quo, and social struggles in Derby during the 70s and 80s contributed to the raw political charged energy of punk. The 70s and 80s were pivotal decades for Derby music scene, marked as a shift from the glam rock and punk influences of the 70s to the punk and new wave movement of the 80s. Whilst the city may not have produced major national acts, its local scene was vibrant and deeply intertwined with broader cultural shifts in the UK. The DIY ethos of punk, the rise of alternative music, and the emergence of key local venues laid the foundation of Derby's music culture, which continues to thrive today. Now that we've explored Derby's rich musical heritage, it's time to step into the present, where the city's music scene is more vibrant than ever. In this next chapter, you'll hear from the bands and promoters shaping the sound of Derby today, offering a first-hand look at the energy and creativity driving the city. Let's start with The Public Eye. This is Joey Greener from The Public Eye. So, talk to me about Derby.
I think Derby's it's a city that's meant to be a town. Really, we only got called a city not that long ago. So I think it's a very tight knit sort of. Everyone sort of knows each other, and that can be a really good thing. I think a lot of the time.
So, when did The Public Eye form, and what was the process like for you guys emerging into this Derby music scene?
So we sort of came out of like the back end of lockdown, and all of us went to different schools, and I'd met Jonah playing FIFA, which is like dead random, but that's what lockdown will do. And just sort of got everyone together and started playing for just the sort of stuff you do, I guess, when you're starting a band. And I think it's crazy because it changes. So I remember when I was first in the Derby music scene when I was like 13, and it was like one of the open mics was like best rated open mic in the UK and all this stuff, and there was so much. And then lockdown sort of came and killed everything. So it was coming out, and everyone was still sort of finding the bearings. So I think we had a lucky in kind of while everything was rebuilding.
So, in terms of headline gigs that you've done with the Public Eye and Derby, do you face any challenges when you get to booking the gigs, organising or promoting them, the venues in Derby, something like that?
I think especially starting out, yeah, 100%. There's always challenges, but I think that's why you do it, because it's rewarding. Like you wouldn't want it to be dead easy, like you just sell out like that, because that'd be boring. You want to feel like there's progression, like as you keep going and you keep learning stuff. It's just a learning curve, isn't it? It's a lot like anything else. I think in Derby, obviously, you struggle slightly because there's maybe not as many venues to play at as the other cities, but I guess if you're looking at it on the positive side, that makes you have to think more and do cooler and more creative things, which is just the fun part of music anyway.
So, what are some of the venues, or just off the back of that, what are some of the venues that you found in Derby that are best for your kind of crowds?
Obviously, our main one that's still standing, the Hairy Dog. Obviously, the very like rocky, which or at least they were like traditionally they're rooted in being like a very rocky venue, but they've done a load of indie stuff recently, and obviously with the indie night running, which I know you interviewed as well. I think the indie scene's absolutely thriving there. Blue Note it's just a club, really, isn't it? But they obviously put on indie gigs, or have put on indie gigs throughout the years that have always been great. I think the music thrives there as well. Debrec's like your perfect entry level music venue, I think, in Derby. You go there and that's where you really like cut your teeth. Places like there, and the Vic and the White Horse that we're in now.
Yeah. What have the promoters kind of been like with you guys? Have they been helpful with these gigs, or have you ever found any challenges with getting these gigs? Or
I think Derby promoters are a lot better than other cities because they understand that it's a challenge putting on gigs in general. Whereas other cities that have been established, you can get people that don't realise the look of the position they're in, being able to book these gigs.
outside of the Public Eye and your kind of band stuff, you work with a well-known bar in Derby called the Blessington Carriage, in which you organise an open mic night. On the last Thursday of every month, tucked inside the walls of the Blessington Carriage, led by Joey Greener of the Public Eye, the open mic night here is more than just a stage and a mic. It's a platform for discovery, a safe space for self-expression, and a lifeline for local talent looking to be heard. What Joey and the Bless have created here isn't just a night out, it's a community. What's your motivation for this, and what's the turnout been like?
So when I was starting out and first getting into doing music and stuff, it was all through the open mics. I think you go to an open mic and you meet so many people, and I think that's how you learn stuff, through meeting people and networking. That's the most important part of all of it. So I wanted to, when I was dead young, even then, I always wanted to be able to own one myself. And obviously me and Badge that are running together, being able to have a load of people, whether they're young or people that have been on the open mics for years, just another place on the circuit. If it keeps going in the direction it's going, and it's like atoms multiplying, if we keep seeing these younger bands creating other younger bands, and there's even more of them, then I think we're bound to be somewhere further up the ladder than we were in the beginning.
This is Charlie Royal from the Blooms. So, talk to me about Derby.
Derby is fantastic. It's got a new emerging thriving music scene, and there's so many bands coming out now, which is just so sick to see. Big time. I think Derby as a whole, it's got such great bands, but is really lacking the infrastructure, and you can see that the city council are really trying to hone in on that now that they've noticed that, well, we can make money for them, which is how the world turns. But obviously they've built the Beckett Well, that's opening next month. There's talks about building another smaller size one, which would be great. It's all just about getting those local bands on there.
With this, what are some of your favourite venues that you've played at in Derby?
Ooh, the Hairy Dog will always be up there for me.
And in your personal experiences, what are some of the challenges that you faced with being in a small emerging band in Derby?
I think the biggest challenge is the fact that we're from Derby, and up until this point, not really been on the map that much. I mean, now you see it a lot more, where bands from Derby are being picked up and signed and actually getting more recognition, and that's bringing that recognition to the city as a whole, which I think is great. But that is the biggest issue, is being from Derby. It's a small scene, we're very tight knit, but we're slowly reaching out.
In an ideal world, what kind of improvements do you think would help the Derby music scene?
I think having a lot more support with the venues, and obviously having that local backing a lot more. It's thriving right now, and it's definitely something to look out for in the future. Yeah.
From the raw rhythms of the 70s and 80s to the heartbeat of today's underground scene, Derby's sound has never stood still. It's evolved, adapted, and kept its soul intact, built not on fame or fortune, but on passion, community, and creativity. In voices like Joey's and Charlie's, you hear more than stories about bands, you hear what music means to Derby. These bands aren't just making noise, they're building something, a scene, a space, a sound that gives people the freedom to be loud, to be honest, and to be themselves. Whether it's on stage with a guitar in hand or a crowd singing every word, music in Derby brings people together in ways that very few things can. It creates connection, it creates belonging. This isn't about chasing the charts, it's about love, passion and community, and that's something that you can feel in every chord, every lyric, and every night someone steps onto a stage and says, "This is who I am." These people, these bands, they're shaping identity, inspiring the next wave, and proving that a city like Derby doesn't need a spotlight to shine. What's next for Derby? Maybe something new entirely, but one thing's for sure is that this story isn't over. This is Derby, this is its music, and it's alive.
Won't you come on over?